previous chapter, Slayer reunited with his younger brother, Afe, and shared with him the whereabouts of their missing brother. However, they realized they were still too underpowered to venture to that location, so it became evident that they needed to increase their strength first. To achieve this, they needed a significant amount of money, so they decided to head to the nearest village and entered the auction house to sell their looted equipment. They even participated in the bidding to manipulate the prices to reach its highest price possible. Unexpectedly, Luna was also present at the auction, hoping to regain her sword, and the fact that she is filthy rich. She easily raised the bidding to $1 million, astonishing everyone present. This impressive outcome left Slayer and Afe feeling invigorated as they left the auction house with high spirits, but this also managed to catch the attention of Luna as she observed them from afar. Now on to the next part. Slayer and Afe had left Niken town behind and were now en route to Bush Coal Village. During their journey, Afe attempted to strike up a small conversation with his brother, suggesting that they should have a barbecue later tonight, since they haven't had a meal outside for quite some time. However, Slayer remained silent and suddenly came to a halt. This left Afe perplexed, but before he could react, Slayer loudly addressed the person who had been following them, urging the mysterious person to reveal herself, which she complied, and to Afe's surprise, it was indeed the girl from the auction house who had been trailing them, which Afe quickly connected the dots, realizing why she had been so willing to pay such a high price, and that she is just a thief all along, planning to steal back the money she had given them, which instantly flustered Luna. Still, she immediately clarifies to avoid confusion, telling them that it is not like what he assumed. She doesn't have bad intentions. She is only tailing them, because the lightsaber they auctioned was her dropped equipment from before, and so she was merely curious about how they had acquired the weapon. To which Afe responded with disbelief, stating that what Luna was saying was ridiculous. The lightsaber wasn't her weapon. It was something his second brother had acquired by defeating a time-limited boss. This brought shock to Luna's face as she was unable to believe that someone had managed to kill a boss she couldn't defeat. With this, she instantly approached them and politely asked Slayer for a practice duel. Afe was bewildered by her sudden request, but Slayer understood her intentions. He, however, had no interest in entertaining her and promptly refused, while Afe remained skeptical, thinking that Luna might be like the 3 girls he had encountered earlier, pretending to be a woman in the game, but actually a guy in real life who would backstab them when the opportunity arose. But in reality, all Luna wanted was to know who was the stronger one between her and Slayer. After that fateful encounter, Slayer and Afe continued their journey to the Bush Coal Village. As they drew closer, Afe asked his brother for some tips. Knowing they'd arrive soon, Slayer was glad to provide information. He explained that the difficulty level of the village wasn't very high because it was built in the early stages of the game's development. And the storyline of the village went roughly like this. The hamlet known as the Bush Coal Village was under attack and surrounded by monsters from all sides. Their initial task upon entering the village was to clear out the monsters threatening it. Once inside, the villagers would reveal the reason behind the attacks. A little girl within the village possessed a body containing holy light, making her a treasure coveted by the monsters. Consequently, they would receive a mission to safely deliver the girl to the Temple of Holy Light. On the way, they would encounter a few waves of enemies, but as long as they delivered the girl safely to their destination, the Temple of Holy Light, their mission would be complete. Afe deeply appreciated this information. He felt that with his second brother by his side, it was as if they had cheats in the game, as they knew in advance what would happen. And just like that, they have arrived at the village. But before they could enter, Afe noticed something unusual. So, he instructed his brother to stay put while he cleared the path ahead, and just watch as he put on a showy performance. And so, Afe charged vigorously at 2 pig-like ladies who were minding their own business, instantly scaring them. They then closed their eyes and screamed for help, which confused Afe, since monsters like them shouldn't be acting this way. So, he stopped his advances and asked who they were. In response, they revealed that they were the villagers of this village. Then they turned the question back on him, asking who he was instead. With this, Afe realized his mistake and apologized for the confusion, explaining that he had attacked because he was here to eliminate the monsters as part of their mission. Hearing his explanation, their demeanor instantly changed. They realized that they had finally met the fabled adventurer right before their eyes. which instantly rizzed them up, and so they eagerly clung to Afe and willingly show him the way to their village. While Afe was pleased with this outcome and couldn't believe how warm-hearted the villagers were. On the other hand, Slayer got no bitches, but this wasn't the reason why he has a bothered expression. The true reason is that the villagers weren't human as intended, and are all pigmen instead. However, he understood that an immediate reaction wouldn't get them anywhere, so he remained silent and decided to investigate on the side. And so they continued their walk to the village, and as they did this, they were greeted with warm praise and enthusiasm from the villagers. The villagers hailed them as legendary adventurers who would free their village from the monsters. They even offered to show them the village's best produce, and the young ones were equally excited, and even the village chief made a grand entrance just to greet them, and then encouraging the villagers to cheer and applaud the newly arrived adventurers. However, all this seemed contradictory to what Slayer had explained earlier to Afe. So Afe asked his brother if it was possible that someone from the Destiny Corporation had altered the mission, to which Slayer replied that it was highly impossible. While the story and the villagers' appearances could be changed, the key characters and their lines couldn't be altered, and therefore, this left them wary of the situation they found themselves in. Nevertheless, they hadn't yet received the mission, so they allowed the villagers to continue their warm welcome. The villagers extended their hospitality by organizing a banquet, which the villagers were eagerly looking forward to, and so the villagers led them to the banquet location. And during the walk, Slayer seized the opportunity to inquire if he could see the purple medic flowers. He mentioned hearing that they were blooming splendidly in the village, but the villagers seemed hesitant, giving the impression that they wanted the adventurers to attend the banquet first. However, this only deepened Slayer's suspicions, as it was now fucking evident that they are up to no good. Shortly after, the banquet began, and the pigmen were enthusiastically indulging in their food, savoring every bite as if it were their last meal. They seemed insatiable.
Hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right.
That is cannibalism right there, but somehow, they do not care, gorging themselves like a maniac. Even Afe found himself succumbing to the tantalizing aroma, and his stomach rumbled with hunger, as the in-game food appeared even more enticing than what they had in the real world, and he had heard that the game simulated their sense of taste to perfection, so he contemplated grabbing a bite for himself. However, his appetite was quickly extinguished when he witnessed one of the villagers eating a bowl filled with eyes as if they were gummy bears. Disturbed by this sight, Afe and Slayer decided to locate the mission NPC, but the village was teeming with inhabitants, making it challenging to identify the correct person. So Afe asked if they needed to approach every single villager to inquire. In response, Slayer assured him there was no need for that, as they could spot the mission NPC if they observed carefully. With that, Slayer approached an individual who stood out from the rest, quietly attempting to blend into the crowd. However, she held an apple, instead of the countless servings of meat on the table. Therefore, it was no doubt that she was the NPC they are looking for, and so Slayer immediately asks if she wished to go to the Temple of Holy Light, which instantly filled her eyes with relief, as this adventurer was the one she had been eagerly awaiting, the one that can save her from this nightmare. And with this, they had successfully triggered Mission 2. Following this, the once casual atmosphere took a dark turn. The moon suddenly turned menacingly red, and the loud sound of the pigmen feasting ceased abruptly, leaving an eerie silence in its wake, and it became clear that something was amiss. Confirming their earlier suspicions, the pigmen began to snarl viciously, their eyes gleaming with bloodlust, and they were now closing in from all sides. In a sudden twist, the pigmen let out agonizing screams, as if something was filling them from the inside. Their eyes rolled back, and their bodies transformed, bulging with newfound muscles as if they'd been infused with some kind of steroids. Then they immediately launched an attack on Slayer's group from both sides. Unfortunately for them, the brothers' combat skills far surpassed their attackers, and so they dispatched the pigmen with just a single powerful blow, taking them completely by surprise. With this, the pigmen realized that their only hope was to overwhelm the brothers with sheer numbers, and so they swarmed in. But Slayer and Afe remained unfazed, meeting them head-on. With this, the sounds of their intense struggle reverberated through the surroundings, yet even against overwhelming odds, Slayer and Afe emerged victorious. Much to their surprise, the battle was far from over, as the dismembered pigmen's corpses started to glow with mana, and to the brothers' astonishment, they began to regenerate. Before long, the once slain pigmen were standing there, hale and hearty, as if nothing had happened. In this perplexing situation, Ah-Fei turned to his brother, seeking a strategy. Unfortunately, even Slayer couldn't provide a clear answer. It defied all logic, because the pig-headed people should not have such an ability to revive. And whatever's happening here is completely different from the original design. So he found himself wondering what had transpired within Destiny Corporation after his departure. However, dwelling on these thoughts wouldn't provide any solutions for their current predicament, but he was certain of one thing: their stamina was limited. Therefore, they couldn't keep fighting these relentless foes. So, they chose a tactical retreat, leaping through windows and dashing down narrow streets until they found refuge in an empty building. However, it quickly became apparent that they weren't alone in the building. As Ah-Fei was about to voice out, a hand suddenly appeared, silencing him, and the hand belonged to Luna herself. This startled Ah-Fei, while Slayer had already pointed her blade at her. However, it seemed like she had no intention of fighting them, as she gestured for them to remain quiet. As the monsters hadn't left the vicinity, with her intentions made clear, she instructed them to continue their conversation upstairs, which they willingly did. As they settled into their temporary hideout upstairs, Luna explained her presence. She emphasized that, just like them, she was here to complete the mission. She wanted to make it clear that she wasn't spying on them again, and that she had actually arrived in the village earlier than them. However, upon entering, she immediately sensed that something was amiss. This suspicion prompted her to remain and conduct a proper investigation, choosing to wait until nighttime to do so. It was at this point that Slayer and Ah-Fei had unknowingly walked in when she was just about to venture outside. Surprisingly, Slayer concurred with Luna's assessment, acknowledging that there were indeed too many peculiarities in this place, and so he turns to the girl and asks if she has any idea what happened before they had arrived here. However, it appeared that the little girl was reluctant to answer their questions. Luna, sensing the little girl's doubts, she accompanied her words with a warm smile, reassuring her, as she emphasized that their purpose here was to protect her, so she can rest assured and share whatever she knows with them. With this, she was convinced, and so she decided to show them the truth, taking her masks off, and began to recount the unsettling events that had transpired in the village. The Bush Village had once been a safe and unassuming place. The villagers were a close-knit, warm-hearted community. However, outside the village, there were often pig-headed people, peculiar creatures that had occasionally roamed nearby. According to an elder who frequently left the village, these creatures weren't particularly dangerous as long as they were spotted early, and you kept a wide distance from them. Over time, the villagers discovered that these pig-headed creatures not only refrained from attacking people but even started mimicking everyone's movements, which the villagers initially found their behavior rather humorous, and consequently, their vigilance against these monsters gradually relaxed. That was until the day a patrolling knight from the Temple of Holy Light visited the village. The knight was Ser Kerlik, a very strong and gentle individual who had made quite an impression on the village, and under the guidance of Ser Kerlik, they all gave a prayer. Only this prayer was different from the others, as she felt her body getting hotter and hotter, and pain as though she was being pricked by something. Troubled by this, she approached Ser Kerlik, seeking an explanation for her unusual experience, and when she shared her ordeal with Ser Kerlik, a smile gradually illuminated his face. He eagerly told her that she had experienced a one-in-a-million event as she had been awakened and chosen by the Holy Light. With this, she could join the Temple of Holy Light and become one of them. Furthermore, their village would gain the protection of the temple, ensuring that they would never have to worry about monster attacks again. But just as she was about to share this exhilarating news with everyone, the monsters launched a sudden and brutal attack. They were vicious, cruel, and numerous, and no matter what they did, the monsters wouldn't die, and so the villagers were all captured, and tragically, Ser Kerlik lost his life while trying to protect them. Overwhelmed and terrified by the horrific events she had witnessed, she found herself paralyzed with fear. She dared not call for help or make an attempt to escape. Her mind went blank, and in her numb state, all she could do was weep. However, after crying for an indeterminate amount of time, her tears eventually ceased. She began to think that perhaps it was the Holy Light itself comforting her and urging her to be strong. With this newfound resolve, she became convinced that she had a responsibility to see things through. After all, the holy light had chosen her for a reason. That's why she decided to don the mask and pretend to be one of the monsters, patiently waiting for an opportunity to escape, as she felt compelled to share the truth of what had transpired with the Temple of Holy Light, to ensure that the holy light would once again shine upon their village. This revelation left both Luna and Slayer puzzled as they pondered the root cause of the pigmen's unusual behavior. But before they could arrive at any conclusions, Ah-Fei stepped in to comfort the girl, assuring her that she didn't need to rely on the temple because he and his second brother would handle the situation. This reassured the girl, and so she finally let out a smile. However, the menacing red moon they had seen earlier had transformed into a sinister eye, glaring at them intensely through the window. And before they could react, the building was suddenly breached, and the girl was now in the clutches of a massive boar that loomed over them as if they were ants, while releasing a menacing laugh as it reveled in capturing the little girl.